Casual Magic has been sponsored by Quiver, maker of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine deck holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their website for 10% off your order. You can also support Casual Magic directly by going to our Patreon at patreon.com/ShivamB. And now, on with the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Architect and Monopool and my patrons at patreon.com/ShivamB. Today, I am very, very excited to have one of my dear friends, who's like, you know, once upon a time, long-time Magic designer and worked on like a billion other games in the meantime, Robert Schuster. And I mean, like, real friends. Like, I've been to your kid's birthday party, for God's sakes. That's like, that's a closer tier of friend than I am with a lot of people.
Yeah. It all goes back to our history with Magic Online, which is fascinating.
Yeah, dude, it's a good time, man. How are you doing?
I've been better.
I realize that's a fraught question, but
yeah, it's. I mean, normally I can't appear on podcasts or talk too much publicly about what I do, but I'm currently between jobs. I was unfortunately part of the 1,000 employees laid off at Epic Games, but
that's so many.
Fantastic.
That is such a big number. Oh my God,
so many, and there are so many people in there that are phenomenal human beings. Yeah.
I mean, look, I don't mean to, and I apologize for immediately starting on the downer. Like, normally, how you doing is not a fraught question, but this is 2026.
Yeah.
How are you doing? Well, I'm still alive. Is that good or bad?
I mean, we persist. As my great grandmother used to say, every day is a victory over the grave. Still on this side of the dirt, right? Like, so
my grandmother's saying is, these are the days of pain. So I'm just telling you where I'm coming from.
Yeah, we're both
it's like that was her favorite thing. Dukna Dara, the days of pain. I'm like, okay, well, I see that
what it means. Yeah.
I mean, here we are. That being said, though, like, yeah, the games industry is just currently going through the ringer. Yeah. And like, I mean, we see it on the news every day. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to sit and try to analyze this. I'll leave that to like Kotaku or whatever to figure that out. But it sucks because a lot of my friends are in the business, and that blows because like, well, I've been in and around gaming, the games industry as an insider for like 25 years.
Right.
And so it sucks to see all of my friends suddenly like out of secure positions. And that's just unfortunate. But you have had the chance to work on some of the biggest games in gaming, which is kind of insane. Like, I know you worked on like Valorant, you've worked on like Destiny and Fortnight. It's like literally like those are bagillions of players.
It's a dream come true. I am so lucky to have been given the opportunity to participate in these long running games. Like, I started at Wizards of the Coast after working a bunch of different contracts on QA. I literally started a contract answering phones because I knew enough about Magic Online to help people get reimbursement if they had an issue.
Yeah, like from what I remember when we first met up, like, and you were telling me about this, you had started as like Magic Online customer service.
Basically, yeah, in the customer service org, the person who hired me is a guy named John Kozar. Love him to death. They're actually gonna go meet up next weekend to hang out. First time in a while. But yeah, the game support unit at Wizards of the Coast was built of a SWAT team of people that loved the game enough to know the rules inside and out. Like it truly was. There was a person there that could actually explain to you how like the 4E Paladin challenge rules work, which like, there's like 3 of those people in the world, or could tell you, how layers work over the phone without visual aids. Right. It was a great place to work. I learned so much about the depth and love of the game that these people could bring to it.
It's insane. Like, I mean, I'm going to sidetrack for 10 seconds to talk about customer service at Wizards because I called them during the Fallen Empires era. And it is completely insane that there were just a bunch of dudes sitting at phones who literally knew everything there possibly was to know about Magic. And like to the point that they were able to design cards later on and like make their own sets. And it's just like, what? And it's just like, turns out when you have to answer the most obscure ass question about Scheherazade, you know the game inside.
Yeah, and there are some people, not just within Wizards, but people throughout games that have gone through there. Ali Medwin, got her last name wrong. Ali Steele.
Ali's awesome.
Yeah, Ali's fantastic. She's over at World of Warcraft. She worked on the housing system. Dan Emmons, who I trained up in game support, he's now a lead champion designer over on League of Legends.
I know his name too.
Yeah. So many folks started there in that capacity. And I just so happened to know Magic Online well enough that when I got converted to a full-time position, Chris Kiritz, another wonderful human being, was like, hey, I need somebody to come help work Worlds. Because we have a Magic Online tournament the exact same time as we have Worlds going on. And I was like, that seems stressful. He's like, yes, I need help. And I was like, great, I would love to. And that was the year of the famous Reed Duke double Q, where he was in Worlds during the day. It was Dark Ascension, I believe, was the format for it.
Do you remember what city it was in?
It was in San Francisco on the pier.
Oh my God.
And it was so
cool. You were there that year.
Yeah. I Christine Sprankle walks in the Elspeth.
Yes.
Right. Like that was the year. During the day, we had 3 different people that were in the main event. And then in the afternoon, they would come over and play Magic Online for another 4.5 hours. It was ridiculous marathon for these players.
Okay. So I have a story about that event because that's the event that I came back to Magic in. Because I was living in San Francisco at the time, and that was 2011. So or 2010, 2011, something like that. I'm pretty sure it's 2011. But yeah, I was just laid off of Sony PlayStation, having worked on God of War and Uncharted 2 and whatever. And I had nothing better to do because that's who else is going to go to Worlds on a Wednesday. And I've been reading Rosewater's articles about Innistrad and whatever. And I was like, okay, sure, I'll just pop by and see what Magic is like there. I had never drafted before, and I sat down and I started drafting with Team Finland and Team Japan, who are all here for the World
Cup.
The World Cup. And I'm getting my butt whipped by literally the greatest player. Yeah. There was a game I was playing in where my opponent stood up and said, "Oh, excuse me, I have to go." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm sorry. What, is there something wrong?" He's like, "Yeah, I got to go get my Hall of Fame ring," because it was Shuhei Nakamura getting his Hall of Fame ring in the middle of the draft. And I'm like,
one of the nicest guys here.
Please. But the reason I bring it up is because of the fact that you brought up Reed, because after he did that gauntlet of playing in Worlds and then playing on the Moto, because he was a champion that year.
Yep.
He did a late night draft of that event. And I was sitting there and I'd been drafting all day and just getting my ass kicked all day long. And I was looking, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I don't know how to do this at all. And I was like, I'm just going home and I'm quitting Magic. I'm just calling it a day. I was like, I had come back to the game after 10, 15 years away or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I don't understand this stuff. I know how to play, but this is not maybe the nice, vacation, and then I'll go back to playing video games or whatever I'm doing. And Reed's like, well, hang on a second. And he looked at my deck and he taught me how to build a limited pool, how to draft, how to play sealed, and literally spent half an hour just teaching me how to do limited. I'm like, I had no idea who he was. He was just a dude who was my opponent. And after our match, he literally sat down and just taught me how to play. And because of that, I'm sitting here now with you, because I would have just called it a day on that game and been like, that was a fun little reminder of my nostalgic youth, and now I'm going to do other things. But because Reed Duke was after being just 15 hours of Magic competitively, teaching a random scrub how to build a limited deck, it changed my life, Yeah, but that was a hell of an event, man.
My favorite Reed Duke story is also from there, where after he was done with this Magic Online round, he noticed me because the Magic Online booth, or the Magic Online championship area, was near the front of the venue. So people would walk past it, and I would be one of the first people in a Wizard shirt that people would see. So I get asked a lot of questions while I'm, working on this event as well. And he came up to me after I talked to somebody, and he's like, "How do you do that?" I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, I know how to talk to pros. I don't know how to talk to casual Magic players because I've been talking about, Commander with another player who came up, right?" And he's like, I asked them, what they like about Magic, and a lot of people will say that I know will say like limited or say constructed or block constructed, sealed, right? They say they like red, and I don't know how to talk to them. And I'm like, well, it really does come down to a different perspective on the game. And he just very sincerely was like, can you help equip me with it? And so I just walked through a couple of scenarios. I'm like, I told him whenever I talk to somebody, I'm always looking for like that handle of like what to grab onto, right?
Yeah. I mean, God bless him. He tries. He tries so hard. Yeah. It was really funny though, because I remember that was the first time I'd met real Wizard employees or whatever, and I was sitting down with Mark Globus, I think, and he was like, we were doing spell slinging, right, where we get to sit down and play games, and all I had was this dual deck with me, and so we were just jamming a game, and I'm like, explain to me fetch lands. I don't understand why you would take damage to get a land. Right. Like, who wants to do that? And he was like, well, and he sat down and taught me about deck thinning and whatever. I'm like, okay, listeners at home, I understand why fetch lands are good. It's okay, you don't need to tell me. But yeah, dude, that's wild. That that event was it was also the event that the prof came back to Magic at, because he was also there, and we were all like, because we're both local here, and that was a really monumental event for a lot of us. Just like it ended up being a lot of people that came back, and like Sprinkle, oh my god, yeah. Anyways, God, I could talk about 2011's Worlds. I should do an episode just on that. I probably have.
It was the event where I started playing Commander with some of the Magic R&D folks, which, you know, a couple of years later, I would actually get invited to apply for a design role within Magic R&D. Like, people would ask, like, how do you get a Magic R&D? And I'm like, not the way I did, because I think I'm the only person who ever worked Magic Online and played way too much Commander. They're like, hey, can you come and, you know, help us make sure that my primary job on Magic Online was to make sure that the cards translated their interface correctly within the rules and within a reasonable way, basically UX design of the cards, so that when you play them on Magic Online, you know, the words that it was saying, you know, and the prompts it was giving you made sense with the effect of the card.
Yeah,
that's where I met Allie. She was my editor in that position. So.
Yeah. So before we actually go further, I actually want to ask you about that, because Magic Online is a notoriously terrifying system. It is very complicated, and it's got to handle like all 30,000 cards or whatever in the history of the game, and all the weird ass interactions that we are going to put it through. And it's just held together by tapes and dreams. What were like some of the biggest challenges you had when you were trying to like work on this program?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges with Magic Online really revolved around the fact that it wasn't in a modern engine. It used Windows Presentation Foundation and XAML to put like assets into the game, which meant that upgrading the UI was really difficult. So anytime we needed to do, branching sort of evaluation of logic, and we needed to build UI for it, that was very time consuming. So the people that worked on it got really good at testing these interactions and finding the dead ends of it, but it would still be required to know like what happens if you pop a chromatic orb to pay mana for a Panglacial Worm while you're searching the library. The answer is, go ask Matt Tabak. Turns out that was the answer a lot of times, or Alexis while she was still on Magic Online.
Oh God!
But it is what Magic Online does is it takes a look at the Oracle text of every card and generates a massive regular expression that becomes compiled code for all of the cards within it. And I learned so much from those engineers about like the full stack of Magic the Gathering. And like, it was a game that assumed it would be on dial-up when it was made by Leaping Lizards way back in the day. So at one point we ran out of the ability to make more cards. Because in order to pass off a card, it would only use a 16-bit integer. And we had bit stuffed some information in there about like, is this a foil? Is this an alternate version of it? Right. So we had to go through and unpack all of that and translate each card to this new format in a release that we didn't talk about publicly, but it was a ton of work to get through.
Did you guys just run out of numbers?
Yes. Yeah. We ran out of the ability. It was like 24,000 cards or whatever. Hours of 2 off the top of my head at this time of night.
That's so crazy.
But
That's so crazy. Because like people are always like, why doesn't Magic Online just change the way it looks and make itself look nice and new? I'm like, buddy, it is having enough of a time just being able to tell you what Grizzlebrand does. Let's relax. Grandpa's working, okay?
Yeah. One of my favorite things I ever designed when I came in with Ryan Spain, he turned me on the league system. He's like, hey, what can we do as we're bringing leagues back to Magic Online to make it better? And one of my favorite systems I've ever designed was the trophy system. If you go undefeated in a league, you get a trophy and you get to stack those trophies. Getting one feels great the first time you get it, and getting one per set feels great the first time you get that sort of streak going. But then when you get the Redukes and the LSVs of the world talking to each other, they'll be like, I've got 24. Dude. And it's like week 2, and you're like, what are you? Okay.
Yeah, but like the trophy system is so fundamental to the way that we talk about, like the way that limited players especially talk about Magic. It's like, oh yeah, man, like I trophied a deck with 7-0 on Arena. Arena doesn't even have trophies, and that's just the vocabulary of my deck won the pod, right? Like it is. I've had people just be like even at Shoebox, which was a con I was at a few weeks ago in Minnesota, we were playing a bunch of cubes, and I was talking to somebody about his cube deck. He's like, yeah, man, I trophied 2 of the cubes I played. I'm like, that is just vocabulary now.
Yeah. I love it. Cool. And I've tried to translate that sort of, help players build the language to talk about their accomplishments as I've moved through my career. And it was not like I didn't do the actual coding work. Like I did the design. The team got excited about the design. Ryan Spain was a champion of it, even though it was very late in the development of leagues, because we sort of spotted like finishing a league just didn't feel as good as it could. And I went through some iterations, paper prototyping some designs. And when that one came up, he got really excited about it. I'm like, I think it's really good too. And he's like, okay. Like, and once it went through, I was just so happy to see players respond to it. And yeah, that I consider that to be like my first big like digital design success of my career.
But there's something really impressive to be said about that, in the sense of like, when you think of the user experience, the experience of the player who's the end result here, you want them to feel something. You want them to feel like the exhilaration of winning and have this tangible reward. Like, especially in digital games, it's so hard sometimes to have like, oh yeah, man, I won like 16 matches in a row. Okay, well, what the hell does that mean? Who cares? Right. But when you're like, you've got a tangible or a weight, like the word trophy has weight, and it has like real world weight to it. And you're like, oh yeah, I collected these things. They're still the same just digital graphic that everybody else has. It's got no meaning, but it's psychological. And that psychological drive is what keeps people playing and coming back. And that is incredibly hard to capture.
And Magic Online grinders are everywhere. When I was doing my orientation at Riot, a guy named Mark Merrill, one of the founders of Riot, was like, Magic Online. And I was like, oh, I've been clocked. Like, yeah. I was like, I knew he had played Magic Online, but didn't realize like to what extent. But he was a grinder and recognized me, and we chatted. And I invited him to come draft with us because I had some of the boxes of the Lord of the Rings set. Unfortunately, he was busy that night, but it's a very gracious guy. He's a fan of games, but they are everywhere. Every company I've run into them. I did an interview with a company that I won't mention because, interviews are a tenuous subject. But one of the people in the interview just kept smiling at me. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, I thought it might be weird if I brought cards for you to sign. And I'm like, it would have been a little weird, but also I'm happy to sign them. I will warn you, it makes them worth less money unless I think the only one I've ever seen go for more money after I sign it is One with Death, because I'm the artist for One with Death. And yes, that's on my resume. It says Magic Card Artist One with Death because I own that.
I love that card. That card is terrible, but I love that card.
Yep.
I mean, honestly, the only card I want you to sign is Emil, the unicorn.
I didn't even name that one or design any part of it. That was I'm not going to blow up the spot of the person who named it, but they're a sweetheart.
We are grateful to them.
They are,
because that's a phenomenal tribute, honestly, and it's just so cool. Okay, so what was it like moving up to R&D then? Because like working on Magic Online, at the end of the day, it's a software program, and it's like every other software company. R&D is a different kettle of fish, as it were.
And coming in there, it's been an interesting arc for my career, because when I came in there, I was a person who was viewed as being more for the casual player and more for the outsider coming into Magic. At Wizards, I would always go and teach people to play Magic, new employees at our internal pre-releases. I taught Greg Leeds how to play Magic.
Oh, geez.
The CEO of the previous CEO of Wizards of the Coast. Many moons ago. I don't know how many have been in between, but a very nice Canadian guy, which
Three
I've known a lot of
CEOs ago?
CEOs. Yeah, three, four, I don't know.
I don't know. I
but
met the new one at Gen and at GDC, but I don't even remember his name. So,
right.
it's probably fair. He probably doesn't remember mine either.
Yeah. The thing I will say for Greg, though, is one day when we had a freak snowstorm and everybody got snowed into the office, he was there with his SUV offering to drive people home.
That's
because he did not want them stuck in the office. So generally a kind guy in my experience with him, but I did enjoy working with him.
Cool.
But yeah, that arc of coming into Magic R&D as an outsider was difficult, but there were welcoming faces just as much as there was an expectation of excellence and attention to detail. And Allie was one of the people that really helped me learn the ropes because she had come through game support before. And so we already knew each other. So I got to sit right next to her.
And didn't she eventually go to Magic Online before I think she moved on to WoW?
Yeah. She I
her name is Allison Steele now, by the way.
Allison Steele, sorry.
Yeah. But I still know her as Ali Madwin, I know.
Yeah. Folks like Tom Lapilli showed me the nuts and bolts of like,
this is a person
I used to lose PTQs to all the time. I think I lost 3 PTQ top 8s, like winning against the top 8 against Tom Lapilli. I actually made a decent amount of money playing cards, but it was WoW TCG versus Lord of the Rings TCG.
Okay, so stop for a second. I think we need to actually step back like 400 years before this. How did you find Magic?
Wow. So going back to, I grew up in a small town in Ohio that's about 30 minutes outside of what you could start to call Cincinnati. And I was
a lot of Magic R&Ds come from Ohio for some reason.
Yep. And we had 88 people in the high school I went to. So really small high school. You could get your driver's license
in my gym class.
Right. Yeah. You could get your driver's license at 15 if it was a farm vehicle. I got mine at 16 and started working because there was so little to do in my community. And I found a local game store that did tabletop gaming. And then it was Civil War miniatures. And the reason they invited me, a younger person, in to participate with them is because they didn't want to play the North. So that was my first introduction to gaming. I didn't realize until like 5-10 years ago, like that clicked in my head and I'm like, oh, that's pretty problematic.
That's kind of
but I learned a lot about the mechanics of, miniatures gaming, tabletop gaming.
To be fair, I do love Civil War minis gaming, so it's like, okay, that's fine. I get it.
It was, I think for them, there were Civil War reenactors as well, right? Like in history buffs. So it was, I don't want to say that like it was steeped in problematic stuff. There's a lot of stuff we were doing in the 90s. If you look back at it, it was horrifically problematic, but it's worth that reexamination. But that was my introduction to tabletop. And then, I went to Origins and Gen Con to play Battletech and thought people were wasting their money on these Magic cards. I thought it was a racket. I mean, fast forward to a year later, and it's all I wanted to play.
Do you remember what set that was or what year that was?
It would have been, I think Revised was the first boosters that I bought. And it was just enough to sort of play around the high school. And then when the store started carrying it, I think that would have been, it was after 4th edition. I don't remember specifically what set, but like
Ice Age or something, whatever.
Yeah. Past the ability for me to say that I have like original power or anything like that.
No, you have like original giant growth from 4th edition.
Well, I have a Maze of Ith that I traded for very early that has the marks from the back of my high school my high school bleachers on the those
are earned marks.
Yeah,
we love
exactly. That. So I learned how to play cards then, and we saw this.
Randomly on my desk is this Mirage starter deck.
Yes.
Still got like a billion cards in there.
So the stuff that I was selling as I was working at this game store, they had sort of rescued me as a kid who just kept showing up like every day I could where I wasn't working at Office Max. They're like, hey, you want a job? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, how much do you make? And I lied and said I made $10 an hour at Office Max. I did not. And they're like, yeah, we'll pay you, Tim. I didn't realize I was going to get paid under the table, and that went way further. I didn't realize that this was a problem or anything until, again, much later in my life. I was a teenager.
Yeah,
So,
but you know what? If someone's going to pay you under the table when you're like 16, yeah, roll with it. Who cares?
Right. And they were so generous. Like, I learned the nuts and bolts of the business of selling cards, stocking the binders, cleaning up the store, making orders. And we had this explosion. Yeah, we had this explosion of TCGs in that time frame. If there is a TCG in the 90s that I didn't know how to play, I would be shocked. Everything from the X-Files TCG to Rage, yep.
L5R, Rage,
Jihad, and then Vampire the Masquerade. Yeah,
I played that too.
We were a big Legend of the Five Rings store, so right after the Day of Thunder, I think I went to every Worlds for like 7 years.
I was a Lion Clan main for a very long time.
Yeah, I have two decks that made a splash in the time frame there. One of them was a Phoenix control deck, and then the other one was, if anybody knows, they know, Fox Force 5, which was the Fox Stronghold Elemental Rush deck that was way too good.
I really liked the mechanics of L5R. It was a really fun game to play.
And the player base was so inviting, and it was the sort of like, there's always room at the table for more people to join, and then you would sort of break off as people got eliminated and play head to head. So it was just a great community.
It was a very Vorthos heavy community, if I could use that kind of mechanic, right? Like everyone was super engaged in the story, and it was such a cool. Anyways, Magic really should steal some of the mechanics from L5R and bring them back, because I loved having your strongholds and being able to attack. And anyways, we'll talk about L5R another time.
I'll tell you, my contemporaries were like driving into Cincinnati for their jobs at Toys R Us. And so they went through like the Tickle Me Elmo days. I went through the launch of Pokemon. So I lived that. And I still have a booster pack, unopened, Bulbasaur, first edition, the store hang tag crimp, which was like the second printing that they made ever. And they didn't make very many of those because that was a stopgap until they could print the non-first edition.
Holy crap.
So I don't have any other. I had, between me and my friend Kyle George, who also ended up working at the store when I went off to college, we had a complete foil set of first edition at one point, and I'm sure it turned into rent for us at some point.
You know what? Reasonable and fair. I mean, that's what happens to all of our old cards when we're young and dumb and don't know about the passage of time. Right. But yeah, so you had played in like PTQs and tournament level stuff?
Yeah, I mostly focused on L5R tournament stuff before I went off to college. And then when I came to Seattle, there was a smaller Legend of the Five Rings.
Why did you come to Seattle?
To go to Digipin for school, which is a video game school.
Okay.
I actually had a full ride to go to the University of New Orleans to play jazz. Because I could play a bunch of different brass instruments.
That's cool.
They liked my demo tapes. I played jazz once a year during our holiday concert, and they really liked my solo.
That's awesome.
The director really liked my solo, and he's like, "Hey, you should submit this to colleges and just see." And they reached out, gave me a full ride, and I was like, but this game school thing seems So I went there. It was very stressful. I made some lifelong friends that I still have to this day, but I really fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. And I would go down to the Wizards Game Center, and I would play in their L5R tournament every Friday night. And I had a streak of winning like 10 times in a row with my silly, Yogo Junzo Shadowlands deck, 9 lives, if you remember that deck. Absolutely ridiculously overpowered. They even had tournaments there where you could play the unreleased Netrunner expansion because they had them all in that building.
That's sick.
When I say I played every game, I mean, challenge me, reach out to me on Blue Sky, RJS at bluesky.social, right? Like, I want to know if you can find one that I didn't play in that era, because I would love to look at it. Highlander TCG was a master class.
I played Highlander.
But my conclusion after doing all this, Shivam, I want to tell you was, well, there's no future in tabletop. I should go learn how to make digital games. That's what I did by going to Digipin. And I learned a ton about the craft and the nuts and bolts of like get pixel, set pixel to make an entire 3D engine. You learn the math behind it and you do it. Yeah. So that really grew my technical background. And coming out of there as a person who had always been interested in working with kids, I was a camp counselor during the summers in college. I wanted to work on kids games, and Humongous was right down the road. And I got a job offer from Humongous, and the day I was to start, they got acquired by Infogram, and so I did not have a job anymore. And there was a massive consolidation in the industry that happened at that time. Valve got purchased by Sierra, or the Sierra Valve thing happened.
Yeah, I remember
around that same time.
I was a hardcore Sierra fanboy then, and I was like, no. Yeah, I remember.
Right. So there was a lot going on. So I maybe became a bit of a Midwestern punk that followed bands while living out of my van and working for the county while I would play, whatever card games I could. So that was my real like PTQ grinding era. I was never great at those games, but I did notice that there were games that were easier to win money at that had smaller tournament sizes. So that was the era of, I won some money at Versus, Lord of the Rings TCG, Urukai Archery, Dwarf Force was another one.
Okay, here's one.
So,
do you remember, what the hell is that anime game called that was in the 90s?
Animehem?
Yeah, Animehem.
Oh, I do.
Because I remember it had El Hazard and it had Tenchi Muyo and it had some other garbage. Yeah.
And Dragon Ball Z before Dragon Ball Z got its own. Oh, yeah. Well, Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z before they got their own card games. So.
Animehem was big in my high school.
I will say one of my favorite stories to tell about that era is I went to the Lord of the Rings TCG Worlds at Gen Con that year, and I scrubbed out a day one because we had a control deck that limited some people to getting to just the beginning of their deck. And a person basically got 4 copies of a card they needed to run past Site 9 on me. So it was like the worst beat because this was on the bubble for day 2, right? And my deck was ridiculous. And that night, maybe we went across the street and had a few drinks at the bar across from Gen Con there. One of the first years it was in Indianapolis. And we were looking at the program. Yeah, we were looking at the program, and I was like, "Oh, Decipher has Mega Man TCG." I thought I heard they were shutting that down, but Worlds is tomorrow, and it looks like you can get a trophy and some like limited Mega Man collectibles. I'm like, what? Okay,
you just signed up for Mega Man Worlds,
and I won. I learned to play the Mega Man TCG the night before incorrectly. It wasn't a big tournament; there was like 75 people there.
Yeah, but winning a 75-person tournament of anything is not nothing.
That's I didn't have any cards. There was an hour left with the dealer hall open, and me and my friend Vince went around to everybody and were like, "I'll give you $10 for any box of Mega Man you have." And there were times where people would be like, "Just take them all." Right? Like, because this was the beginning of Decipher having some pretty big structural issues. I mean, it's very difficult to run a card game company.
Yes.
But
Decipher had a lot of bad games.
They also had some licensing deals that were very difficult to keep up with between, I don't know the ins and outs of it. I was a player. If you remember Team Bison Bucks, I was part of that team. We were called that because they, instead of giving you the cash they promised you from Decipher, you would instead get Decipher dollars, which you could only use to buy promos and product from their online store. And if you remember at the end of the Street Fighter movie with
I remember
in it, when Sagat has these crates of money and he sees that they have M. Bison's face on it. So that's why we called ourselves Team Bison Bucks.
That is what I thought you meant. And I was just waiting for you to get there. And I was like, oh God, please don't.
So this Mega Man tournament is amazing. There are these kids here that are huge Mega Man fans. There are some people, this was a game where if you played in your locals, you got ridiculously overpowered cards. I have spotted that there was a windmill combo in a very specific character in the latest set, and there was very little of that set circulated from what I could tell, other than like dealers have brought it to like unload it. So I have mostly that set. I didn't know how to attack, but I did know that I could play a bunch of cards that said we both draw cards, and it was I believe it was a 30 or 40 card deck, but that was your life, like a lot of Decipher games, right? So when you're out of it, you're done. And all I needed to do was... You just built a
turbo mill deck?
Yeah, it was Windfall Combo, because then Woodman's Ultimate, which I only have 1 copy of, but you were allowed to run 2 because I couldn't find another one of it, said that you and your opponent both discard your hand, and then you both draw as many cards as both players have drawn this turn, and then your opponent loses that many cards off the top of their deck equal to the number of cards in your hand.
Oh my God.
There was like a 14-year-old kid that like had just learned to play at like the Decipher booth, that like entered the tournament. And that was my first round opponent. And I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I was shocked as you are that this works.
I learned how to play last night.
The designer of the set came by.
Oh, God.
He had just been, I believe he had just been let go from Decipher, or it was a contract position, something like that. He's no longer working for Decipher. And he's like, yeah, we probably should have changed that card. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's real good. So I don't drop a game. I get to the finals against this guy who had only dropped a one game there, and I haven't played him yet. It was only like a 5-round tournament, I think. And he's sweating. Yeah, it's like a Sharkman deck or something with ridiculous stats on it. And so I bluff by like starting to attack, and I do it incorrectly. And he's like, that's not how that works. And I'm like, hey, judge, can you explain to me how to attack? Because like, it's not a function I had needed up to that point in the tournament. And I beat him in the first game. And then I'm like, cool, I guess I win. And they're like, oh, it's best of 3. And I'm like, oh, and I'm like, okay, can I talk to a judge real quick? Because I want to split at this point. I don't want to play another game against this person who is clearly like very good at this game.
Yeah. Has
ridiculous cards that I could do the math. And I'm like, I have like 5 turns, right? God. Like against his deck, because it really does go hard. And he would, to his credit, student of the game, really like on it, was very gracious to me, a person who didn't know what he was doing. But eventually what we wound up doing is the split was I get the prizes, but he gets first place.
You know what? I'll take it. I mean, if that's what matters to you, right? Like if you're like, I want to be the world champion of Mega Man, you can have the whatever. Just give me the trophy.
Right. I got uncut sheets. I got a copy of every Mega Man game that was in print, a DS that said Blue Bomber on the outside.
See, that's already amazing, though. Like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
The trophy, which was the whole reason that me and my friend Vince had entered this tournament, didn't actually exist. So they apologized and gave us Decipher dollars.
No, Bison Bucks.
Yeah.
Because like that year I was super hard into Magi Nation, which was a game that it was like
my college roommate was the lead designer on that.
What the hell?
Yeah, Steve McLaughlin.
Yeah, I knew him because like he came and did the tour of all like, the game stores up and down the West Coast, and I met him and stuff. That's crazy because like I knew a bunch of old L5R heads were working on that. Yeah. And like I was hard on that game. And I played in Worlds. I did all the things. I didn't win very far because some dudes in Alabama found a way to break the game with whatever. It doesn't matter. The point is, Magi Nation was like me and like Jimmy Wong were like addicted to that game. And then we came back to Magic eventually.
It was a really neat game.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
There's only so many card game designers too, which is the thing you'll learn.
Yeah, that's fair.
You could put us all in a gymnasium, and it would only take a couple of buckets of QFC, and we would have a nice meal. We would have a nice meal, right? Like there's just not that many of us, right? So I feel honored to be a part of it, right? Like, and the fact that people making card games in the early days, like John Zinzer, right? Like was very generous at this time, and would discuss things like design with a random kid that was like a clerk at a game store. I mean, right? So
it's like, say what you will about Rosewater, like he sits and has written effectively a college course worth of text about like game design and card design. That's just like over 20 years worth of stuff.
You asked me about the experience of coming into Magic R&D, and I'm going to tell you my Mark Rosewater story. Mark and I have very different design philosophies, but I learned so much about Magic from him because he was generous with his time. One of the first pieces of feedback I got from the type of direct feedback you would get in the pit was very different from any job set. So anytime somebody is like, oh, I have some feedback on something you've made, you're making, or a design doc or anything, I'm like, you're fine. I've heard everything so far. The first piece of feedback I got from an executive was Robert clearly knows digital better than anyone else in R&D. I don't think he should be allowed to design Magic cards. And at that point, I shouldn't have been allowed to because what I was bringing in did not meet the quality bar of what a contributor to a set would be doing. Yeah. So and hilariously, the first set I did design on was Commander 2016, which was 4-color. So, but Rosewater, upon hearing that feedback, came to me and said, "Hey, if you'd like, you can send me, it's called homework when you bring in cards, that you work on overnight or over the weekend or whatever, bring them next week. When you do your homework, he's like, if you want to send it off to me, I'd be glad to give you feedback. And at first I was like, you're very busy. Mark is so busy, right? Like,
yeah.
But it was genuine. I would send it off to him and he would like redline it and commentate on it. Like, those great designer search articles where, he did that for me. Like,
that's insane,
more than a handful of times. And he did it out of work time because he cared about, helping me get to that level. And I can't say thank you enough to Mark or any of the other people that gave me well-reasoned feedback. Adam Brozak, Sam Stoddard, like Del Loggle, like there are so many people, Aaron Forsyth, so many people in Magic R&D that were really patient with me. Ethan Fleischer, Sean Elizabeth, right? Like, yeah.
Man, I love Ethan. I love Sean. I think they're both insanely incredible people. But dude, I'm just thinking about the fact that like getting like hands-on direct feedback from Rosewater with like, hey, here's how you fix this and here's what you should be doing instead is like invaluable. I mean, there's nobody in CCGs who knows more about design than, people like to crap on him a lot because, he's the face of Magic and he takes the good and the bad and whatever. There's all sorts of reasons to like or dislike him, but the dude knows how to design a card game better than literally anyone alive. And that is insanely valuable. Just even like if you design one card and he sits there and says, let me show you why this didn't work. That's incredible.
Right. Yeah. And he was aghast at some of the things that I brought to Commander 2016 with good reason. Though it was, and this was really like, I cannot stress enough. This was Ethan Fleischer and then Ben Hayes when it got handed off to the sort of development phase. The two of them really brought C16, which had a super long development arc.
And it was so complicated, that set. I mean,
it was.
The assignment of 4 colors is insane.
I had a bet with Ethan Fleischer. So I was famous for making bets. I just like gambling. It's a weird thing that I do. I would make bets, and to the lead designer of the set, I told Ethan, even though I was like part of coming up with partner, I was like, we're not going to ship partner. Like, I bet you, you can pick any restaurant. I will buy you dinner. I'll buy you lunch at whatever restaurant you want. We're not going to ship partner.
I wish you had won.
I will say hindsight 2020. But that expansion really did push forward what Commander could be. Like that set was a love letter to the process of what it's like to make a deck. And he let me really push into, like, there was feedback that's like, we can't sell a group hug fronted deck, right? Kainanios and Tira, which by the way started out, they started out life as burp muck, look out, he's a hugger, goblin frog wizard was what they started out as. Very similar to their final version
exactly
in text. But no, like the mechanics were very close, but it was all about, can we land a deck and make it something on a shelf that people want to buy? And it turns out we probably just underestimated like how many people out there like just want to come have fun. And
dude, group hug is amazing. Like I finally built my first group hug deck off Baldur's Gate, but like the Big Gay Kings are like so popular and so beloved. And like that would have been really funny if it had been a frog wizard though. Okay, so what was that the deck that you worked on? Because I know that like when you get assigned to work on C16, you're like given a deck to design, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one did you get? Was that the one you worked on?
I was in charge of 3 of them at one point in time because everybody else had to move on except for Ethan and I. So we were continuing to develop the deck list. I think the ones that I had the most like direct impact to would be Brea and Kainanios and Tiro.
Oh my God, the Brea deck. I love Brea so much.
Yeah. That was originally a mirror.
I'm sure Olivia Gobert Hicks is very happy that she's not a mirror.
I totally get that. It was very correct to not make it a mirror. I also tried to make an equipment commander for that slot for a really long time. And I that would have been, it was a bad decision. But I wanted to build a Thopter combo deck off of Brea, and I ended up just making all really great artifacts. And it's like my mono copper deck because it's got all of my inventions and all my fancy Kaladesh cards and everything. I'm like, oh my God, I love this. One of my first interactions with Ben Hayes as he took over development of that, because we become really good friends. Like, he's over on League of Legends now. We worked on Spellslingers together. Lots of respect for the guy.
I like Spellslingers.
Yeah, thank you. I will say that we did the slideshow of the cards, right? And I got a really good compliment because people weren't familiar with what I had done for the expansion. And all of a sudden, as soon as Runehorn Hellkite comes up on the projection, which is the, Wheel of Fortune from your graveyard dragon, I hear Aaron Forsythe laugh really loud. And he goes, "That's the most Ken Nagel card I think I've seen." And Ken goes, "It was Robert." And I was like, "Yeah, it was me." And then Ben Hayes goes, "Nope. What you turned in was a monstrosity," and it was, because it was and you can find the Magic Online Tumblr where I explain the history of that card. It was originally Time Twister on a dragon from your graveyard.
Oh my God.
So with Lion's Eye Diamond, you could just set your hand to whatever you wanted, because you discard your hand, it's in your graveyard, you have 3 mana. Okay, now with Time Twister, let's see if I get the card I want now, right? Or the hand I want now. So yeah, Ben really ranged things into the realm of possible and got it shipped. And I still look back at that and feel like my first day at the races was, the finals of an F1 seasonal.
Man, that's a hell of a product to work on, because those decks we can mark an epoch change in Commander before and after C16 because of what Partner did. Partner existing is what allowed CDH to exist, is what allowed competitive Commander and all this other hardcore, Atracta was the most popular. I know that's an alley.
That's an alley.
That's an alley card.
That was her deck. Yeah.
But I was like, man, we need to ban this card. And me and her used to get into so many fights about that. And it's not as popular as it used to be, but it was absurd. Mm-hmm. And some of these cards are legit insane, but some of them are also some of the greatest cards that have ever been printed in Commander. And one of the first things I did after that product came out was I made 50 card half decks with each partner, and I would roll dice and just Voltron the 2 halves together, and it would be by our powers combined, I am Bruce, Tarl, and Silas, or whatever. Who knows? But it was hella fun to do modular deck building like that. It was my first experiment with trying to do something like that. God, dude, because I was a huge Partner defender until I saw that everybody else was playing it in ways that I don't know how to play, and it was that's bad.
Allie and I had the most downtime when we sort of tried to put partners into the set, and we are both sci-fi nerds, and I can't remember all of them, but at one point I think half of the partners were named in the original version before they went into the file, were named after either Babylon 5 or Star Trek characters, just because we're this is so Jadzia was Bruce Tarl, I believe, at one point. So it's we had our fun with it in our nerdery, but it was
that's amazing. I think it is best when you are working on placeholder names to pick the least printable names you could possibly pick, so that you don't get stuck with Megamorph.
Well, and Ethan, to his credit, did go through and beat stuff with hammers so it would fit into the file and be good enough to convey the meaning of the card to people that hadn't watched Babylon 5 a dozen times like Allie and I had. So it was a great experience. And from there, I got to do more and more design work on expansions, leading up to things like Battle Bond, right? The sort of esports
one of my all-time favorite sets. Mm-hmm. All-time favorite sets. First off, partner done right correctly in Battle Bond. Secondly, drafting 2 cards with a partner is hella fun. Playing Battle Bond is one of the most Battle Bond and Conspiracy are in my opinion the pinnacle of casual Magic in terms of just this is the way I want to play with my friends. Yeah, it's so fun. I still have a box of it here. I'm waiting for people to get together so we can just jam.
I have very few sealed boxes left, and I think I have 3 boxes of Battle Bond behind me because it really is a good time. Actually, when we were coming up with the tropes for the partners there, it was so much fun. Okunin Zindersplit is very much the if you're familiar with Dota, it's the Alchemist and his rider. Well, the rider is Alchemist, and then the Beast, right? From Dota. So Pier and Toothy are actually my son's imaginary friend at the time was named Toothy. So Emmy Tangi, oh wow, this is a big tangent here. So Emmy Tangi was art director for D&D at the time, and we sat close next to the D&D portion with the first construction of the pit that I worked in. And we would have a craft fair, and she would make these cute little stuffed animals.
A craft fair?
Yeah,
like an
craft
actual
fair. Yeah, every year we would have a craft fair, and people who made handicrafts would bring them in, and you could buy them, right?
That's cool.
And she made these little stuffed animals, and it had a pocket behind it. My son was teething at the time, right? And so I got him this, and I'm like, oh, you can put your teeth in the back of this little blue animal, which was, just the shape with like X's for eyes on it, like a cute little ugly doll thing. And he called it Toothy. And I was like, oh, for this trope, what about an imaginary friend? And Ethan, I remember the pose of Ethan like scratching his head and being like, yeah, but what do we call it? Everybody had, actually, I think it was Sean for that one. But what do we call it? And I'm like, well, my son's imaginary friend is Toothy. You call the first one Baron, the kid Baron if you want. But yeah, that became Pure and Toothy. And
I love Pure and Toothy.
Yeah,
it's so much fun. They were like my Pure and Toothy. Like, you know what? I can't even say which ones are my favorites because honestly, I love all of the partner pairs. Like Regna and Krav, I built a deck around. I built Korvoth and Sylvia, the Dragons deck. Pure and Toothy are just insane. I loved all of even like the other partner pairs, like the normal scrub partners. They're so, God, dude, this set ruled. This set genuinely ruled.
I always forget the name of the black-red sorcery where you choose you wrath, but choose a random creature to survive. Tying a weird circular structure to my career, it was originally called Victory Royale because it was at the time of the last one standing. Yeah. Because it was the esports moment of, winner chicken dinner, right? Like, Fortnite Victory Royale, right? Like, so it was,
you can't call it chicken dinner. That would have been funny.
Right. I think it just went into the file as Victory Royale and then, got cleaned up later. But yeah, it was so much fun to work on. Sam Burley, I believe, was also on Battle Bond as well as Commander 2016. He's an amazing Magic artist, a ridiculous designer, and just such a sweet guy. Every time I went over to talk to him about something, I would bring his lands, which he does these amazing, full art lands, right?
Yeah.
And I would have him autograph him. So I have approximately 60 of each Sam Burley land, both foil and non-foil, autographed
so cool.
by him. And whenever anybody would comment on the lands that I would bring to a draft or whatever, I would say, I only play on autographed Sam Burleys.
And here I'm thinking like, oh yeah, my portal lands are super sick. Nope, they're not autographed, that's for sure. But that's amazing, dog. Like, man, you got to work on some cool. What other sets did you work on?
Oh, I think some of the later ones. Honestly, it was a blur for a while because I did get Aaron Forsyth was like, hey, we see the impending success of Hearthstone. We should be working on what's a mobile expression of Magic, right? And that's where Spellslingers came from. And so he literally grabs me in my office and he's like, hey, what do you think we would need to like get moving on something like this? And, a couple of weeks later, it's myself, Sean Elizabeth, James Hada, and we're sort of going through some different versions of what mobile Magic could be. And that became Spellslingers. I wound up developing like database and tools to do that, did a bunch of principal design. And the first set, like 100 of those cards were ones that I originally put into the file. And I had a great time doing that and getting to work with so many different people. And I love that it proved that like mobile Magic could be a thing. And I think the company very rightly was like, let's get Arena over on mobile, right?
Yeah, fair.
That's a wider audience thing, but Spellslingers is really
it was super fun, man. It was really fun like I remember because you let me into the friends and family alpha and I was playing around and I was like, this could be really cool. There's like a good game here.
Yeah.
Okay, I do have one question that I've always wanted to know, which is one of the alt skins for Gideon has him in this crazy like robot cyborg mask or something.
Yeah.
What was going on? Was you like killing and resurrecting Gideon? What do you remember anything about this other weird skin of his?
I remember it being weird. I don't remember getting to the bottom of it. So at that time, because we had pulled through Spellslingers, they moved me over to Wizards Publishing, and I was looking for new expressions of the IP. And we had what we called Project Searchlight, which was to put together like some pitches to, either do Coda, XM, whatever. And we had some really promising ones. Unfortunately, Wizards decided to change their tack and they didn't get, greenlit or moved into full production. But I still think very fondly of, the prototypes we made there. And one of them in particular, if you played it at Wizards, you know which one I'm talking about. It was a great game. I'm sorry it will never likely see the light of day.
I mean, that's a games industry for you, right? Like how many things really are in our eternal graveyard of games that couldn't have been.
Yeah, when COVID came along, and I focused more into because they had decided to pivot how they were doing digital. I did briefly get to work with like the Larian folks on Baldur's Gate 3, right? Like it was a great spot to be in, and I really do appreciate the folks there that showed me more of the digital side of the game industry.
Yeah.
But there's a whole there was this whole dedication to like what Magic is going to be and like how do we play test from home. The answer there was shared PowerPoint presentation where you make a macro enabled spreadsheet that spits out the card images so you could tap right? Like dude, we had to come up with stuff.
Like think about it like this, like when Olivia started streaming online using like GoToMeeting to play Commander, that was like a brand new innovation nobody had ever thought of.
Yeah.
And then leading to the creation of like Spell Table and then the idea of being able to play just digital online Magic with each other. Like nobody had thought like, what if we just point our cameras down? So like, and obviously you guys are not going to be using like the weird free board game players on Steam or whatever to fake Magic, because I don't think even you would allow to do that. But that's wild though, man.
Yeah,
like
we used our Microsoft suite to play test the Commander products, and it was
do what you have to do.
Yeah.
Like you guys are smart enough to figure it out.
Yeah, and at that point in my career, I was playing a ton of Destiny because I couldn't go outside really at that point in time, and I have a disabled daughter who is at high risk for respiratory infection, so we were not risking anything at that point in time. So, but then Andrew Veen and Rodney Thompson, who were over at Bungie, were like, "Hey, we actually need a person to do seasonal systems design over on Destiny." I was like, you're talking to me? Like I would get to work at Bungie, and went through a really challenging interview process. But everybody there, even though my technical skills were more focused on getting things to print or getting things translated from print into digital, they saw some promise there. And so guys that are now leading up the systems and in-game play of Marathon taught me how to use the engine that's built on top of the Halo 2 bones in order to make Destiny seasons.
How crazy is that though? Like,
right.
I mean, your careers is based on like a bunch of people who know a ton giving you the time of day and teaching you the ropes on how to use these insane other systems, allowing you to grow into being an even better designer. That is what humanity should be, right? Like that is fantastic.
And my goals in my career have always been to make sustainable games sustainably, right? Like when I work on these big games, and coming from that respect that folks in Magic R&D taught me for the game of Magic, it's like we don't want to be making this game for 5 years. We want to be making this game forever. We want kids, grandkids to be able to play this game. And so coming into a game like Destiny, like I felt the weight of this is a bloodline that goes back to Halo, right? Like all the way back to Master Chief and the Magnum. So coming in there and using these tools and, you're seeing things like bump possession, speedrunners know what I'm talking about, like in the engine and like how we do these various things. It was challenging to wrap my head around it, but once I did, I felt like I could really puppet it to do something great. But I've always wanted to make these sustainable games sustainably, like keep making them again and again and again, expanding what they are, reinventing what they are. But also, I always want to be the person that people want to work with again. And I hope that my coworkers that see this, loved all my friends and family at Bungie, Tom Farnsworth, Balder, Brenton, Drew Robert, like there's so many, Sage, there's so many people there that like we had some really difficult times to figure out how to get that engine to do things very quickly to meet our deadlines. But also one of the last things I did there before I went on to Riot was I made a card game in Destiny for Season of the Witch, because I am who I am and I can't get around it. And props to everybody who played Season of the Witch. And I loved getting to make it with Hazelmon Fortin, who's one of my Allison Lyris, Hazelmon Fortin, Robert Brooks. Like there's so many great narrative designers that taught me, a person who was like at their core a competitor and at their core, like I skip cuts. You know this about me. And I'm going to say this, I skip cutscenes. I don't read when I play games. And I know that is anathema to
I don't play games that talk to me. I don't want to hear you talking to me. I mean, I have all the love and respect for the writers and the voice actors and stuff. That's just not the world that I come from. And this is not the game I want to play.
So many people I met in games media were because they would write a review about a game and I would email them, just be like, but can you skip the cutscenes? It's not that I don't like them. I've watched so many Destiny cutscenes again and again and again on YouTube. but that's when I want to watch that, right? Like when I'm playing, I want to get in there and play. I'm just such a gremlin to getting into it. So I don't want the game to get in the, and this is a Ben Brode thing, lead designer of Hearthstone.
Also a really fun
dude.
guy. I've had great conversations with him.
Yeah, we met up once. I think it was a PAX Dev, and we're like, let's grab coffee. Like we're both card game, digital game sickos.
Yeah,
I think we hung out for like 4.5 hours.
Like, yeah, dude. Like I was at a MagicCon, and he just tapped me on the shoulder, like, "Oh, look at you!" And I'm like, "You're so tall, Jesus Christ!" Yeah,
you can find
Marvel Snap.
Yeah, Marvel Snap. Yeah, now Second Dinner is the name of it, and has a bunch of old Wizards folks there too. But you can go and find the talk that he gave at PAX Dev there. I highly recommend it. It's about not getting in the way of players playing the game. Like the game should feel fast, responsive. He uses the term crispy, and that's great stuff to know. Yes, but it also ties into that, like respecting the player's time. One of the things I've sort of developed as I've moved to working on Valorant at Riot, and then most recently Fortnite, is that I want players to look back at the time that they've spent in these games and not say, I wasted my time, right? Like I want them to say, I'm happy I spent that time doing it.
That was when I was working on Commander on the rules committee or in CAG or whatever. And I was always like, our philosophy should be, you have spent 2 hours or whatever sitting with me playing this game. When you get up, you should feel like that was time well spent. And whether you won or lost, that you at least enjoyed the experience. And you shouldn't sit there and go like, man, what a waste of my life that I just you shouldn't feel worse getting up than you did when you sat down. Right. Value the player's time. And that's why, like, whenever I rail about cards like the Torment of Hailfire or whatever, I'm like, these cards do not value my time.
Right.
Like, anyway, that's a different subject.
My favorite card that I designed is a card that I don't think anybody appreciates as much as people who have actually played it and resolved it according to the rules.
Oh.
It's called Explosion of Riches.
Oh, God.
Yep. So I knew I had something here because it's a card that, so you cast it and it's, you would draw a card and every other player may also choose to draw a card for each player who does. One of your opponents, chosen at random, takes 5 damage. It was originally called Juggling Lava Axes. And when I played it, Andrew Veen, we call him Veen affectionately for his last name, great dude, picks up the card, reads it. He looks at me and he goes, "This is brilliant. This is the coolest card I've ever read." And then he like starts laughing and he's like, "You're going to draw a card, aren't you?" Because he's like the last person in the order, because it's active player, me casting the spell, and then non-active player in turn order, right? Like resolve the effects. And he's the last one over there. He's just like making intense eye contact. "You're going to draw a card, aren't you?" He's like, this is the most like sicko enabling,
it's
card
so good.
That is, because everybody's like, it can't happen to me. And after he did that, he took 25 damage. So,
God, dude, the first time I read that card, I had to read it like 4 times and be like, does this just like juggle? Just throws axes at people. It's so good.
And it's about the engagement. So resolving a spell that takes a long time. And one of my other favorite decks that thinks about this a lot was the black-red AFR commander deck, the Warlock one. I'm a big Warlock player in D&D. So Hurl Through Hell was like a card. I'm like, I'm making this. Hurl Through Hell is like on there. But yeah, that's a deck that's about having people engaged in cards that take a while to resolve, right?
Yes.
Like
the story should be compelling.
Yes. The card was originally called Share the Loot, but it's the one where like you're constantly adding cards to the middle of the table that people can draw from. That's how we resolve it, but they go to exile, right? Like,
yeah.
But it's very much it's a catch-up mechanic, but obviously you're slightly favored because you're the one in charge. But it is a card that when you flip over a card, everybody at the table pays attention to it. Everybody reads it because there is an advantage to be gained by paying attention to the communal thing that's happening.
Yes.
So
yes.
That served me so well in digital games, like having that perspective of like, what's it like when somebody joins your party and you're trying to do this quest in Destiny together? And I really loved that the team at Bungie took that quest philosophy and evolved it in Marathon to the most pro-social system ever. I think their quest design of Marathon is absolutely brilliant. Mwah, kudos to them. Really enjoying playing a lot of that game right now. But, yeah.
Man, I played Marathon a billion years ago when it was a Mac game, and I was like, I am not a shooting man game, so I can't speak to the way it is now. And besides, I got into Caves of Cud, and now I'm just addicted to this
it's
stupid
so good
game.
on Steam Deck too, and Switch.
I started playing it on PC, and they gave me a Switch code, and I'm like, oh my God, this is it's like playing ZZT or like Ultima when I was a kid again. And I'm like, this is, and those two dudes are hardcore Magic players. So like, we are everywhere.
In the better version of ZZT, sorry, Tim Sweeney, the better version of ZZT was called Megazooks. And do you know who the developer
Alexis
was?
Jansen.
Alexis Jansen, my friend. Alexis Jansen holds the distinction of having like made two of my favorite games of all time, Megazooks, which is the game that taught me how to do scripting, and then Magic Online, of course.
Yeah, dude.
So big fan of Alexis.
And she made my favorite commander, Tajik, in Dragon's Maze. So it's like, I got to hang out with her once, and I'm like, you were just so cool. And I think I overwhelmed her a bit because I'm a lot, and that's just kind of how it is. But she's very cool. Gracious. She's awesome. She was in town, and we just met up for dinner. It was really cool. Yeah. Man, you had a hell of a career, and it's been really, really sick. And I don't mean to say that in the end, that was the end of your career, but in the sense of like, you've had a really cool pathway to get up places, and this has been really cool. And like, I think the impact you've had on the game, not even in the design, but in terms of the way you interacted with us on the fan side and on just things. And we just became we've been good friends for so long. Right. And it's so cool because like, you really just jump in there and like mix it up with the fandom. And it's like, it's hard to do and it's not for everybody, but when somebody is good at it, I appreciate it a lot.
Yeah, and I owe a lot to these communities because I know like the game is important to them. They choose to spend their time in it, and I learned so much from them. One of the tips I'll give to any of the game designers listening out there is your relationship with the community and taking that feedback. You need to not interpret what they're saying to you. You need to sit with what they are saying to you. However, think of it like a doctor-patient relationship. I've told you this before, but if somebody comes to you and they say, doctor, my leg hurts, please cut it off. Do not do what the patient says in the moment in which they're hurting. Identify the pain, you look into the symptoms, and you figure out a course of treatment. That's what good collaborative with your community game development looks like. And it shouldn't be patronizing. A good doctor is not like, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Sit down. We're not cutting off your leg. A good doctor says, I understand you're in so much pain. What can we do right now to help with that pain? Let's get you some painkillers. Yes. Let's look at some x-rays. Maybe it does need to get cut off. We don't know. That might be the correct thing to do. But let's make sure we're doing a deliberate thing that treats the patient with respect and makes it a collaborative process, right?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate all the players that have engaged in good faith. And I was playing Marathon earlier before I joined this call with people that I met from the Magic Online community.
That's awesome.
Friends. So, yeah.
Man, this has been such a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've had a blast. I love talking to you, and I'm glad that I feel like we don't get enough of a chance to do that because we're life and we're busy and we're parents and we have things going on. But I'm grateful that you were able to take some time and just hang out and chat with me. And if folks want to, well, yeah, dude, I've been trying to get you on for 5 years, so I'll take it. But if folks wanted to chat with you or ask you, quiz you about obscure 90s CCGs, where can they go?
Yeah, my blue sky is a lot of, things about disability games. And so RJS at bsky.social is a great place to reach out to me. That's probably the best place. Just at me, and I'll do my best to answer your questions if you're nice and respectful. I'll also plug, I am currently looking for work since I'm out of work. So if you are looking for a, staff senior principal, director, level game designer, those titles are very weird depending on which company you go to. But yeah, if you're looking for a game systems designer, I love to chat. If you are working on indie projects or solo projects or educational projects, I'm happy to do short contract work on a sliding scale, and I love to yap on podcasts. Happy to go on. So feel free to reach out. I'd love to chat with you.
Absolutely, man. I'm a big fan of Robert. He's amazing. You should hire him because my friends should all have jobs. But with that, you can, as always, you can find me on Blue Sky at Shivam Bhatt. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts sold, or on YouTube every Tuesday, thanks to my editor, Dan. And you can hear me on Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic and on the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast. And remember, my friends, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.